Gina Renee Hall was an 18-year-old college student when she disappeared on June 28, 1980. The details of her disappearance from a Blacksburg nightclub continue to be at the heart of many discussions, one being her sister, Delana. Delana Bodmer believes the way in which Gina disappeared is being told completely wrong in different YouTube videos, movies, books, etc., and she's afraid that it's going to continue in the new documentary. The story was originally dredged up by Gina's killer and his best friend, but it's been passed down as gospel over and over and over without being questioned. Well, I want to tell Gina Renee Hall's story according to what her sister thinks happened. Her sister has put a lot of time, energy, money, and blood into trying to give Gina a voice above all this noise that has started from the very beginning by the killer and his friend, which is a story that is classically told as pretty much victim blaming. You know, Gina left a club with a guy she barely knew to go back to the cabin to do whatever, and she was murdered. You know, same old, same old. It was kind of her fault, right? So that's what I'm going to dive into a little bit today, and I'm going to show you the famous Trestle, and I'm going to show you her grave. Today, Gina Renee Hall will have a little bit of a voice through me. Gina Renee Hall was born August 24th, 1961 in Norton City, Virginia. She was last seen by her sister Delana, who states Gina never met Stephen Epperly in a bar and then left with him willingly to go to a cabin at the lake to be with him. Delana always believed and now knows that Gina was taken against her will, but that was not the story told for decades. The murderer's story became the story. The timeline starts Saturday, June 28, 1980, around 9:50 p.m. Gina Renee Hall borrows Delana's Monte Carlo to go dancing at the Marriott Inn in Blacksburg, Virginia. Now the story goes that she went there alone, but she actually went there to meet friends, according to her sister. Things happened at the bar that were discounted. One was apparently she was being harassed by Stephen Epperly, who relentlessly followed her around until she sat down with two women and said, "Can I just sit here for a minute? That guy's really bothering me." And that story was kind of just lost and discounted for some reason. So it was reported that she was dancing all night long with Stephen Epperly, which also was not the case according to eyewitnesses. So next on the timeline is Sunday, June 29th, 1980, around 1 a.m. Delana receives a call from her sister. Gina's tone is out of character, apprehensive, nervous. Delana asks Gina, "Where are you?" Gina answers her sister, "I'm at a lake." "Well, what are you doing there?" she asks. "I'm looking at it." "Well, who are you looking at it with, Gina?" Gina said one word, "Steve," and hung up the phone. Gina never came home again. Delana Hall and her friends began searching Sunday morning. Monday, June 30th, 1980, the abandoned Monte Carlo found by Delana and Gina's friends. The Monte Carlo was abandoned on Hazel Hollow Road, parked almost under the train trestle that crossed the New River into Radford, Virginia. Trooper Austin Hall of the VSP discovered the bloodstains in the trunk with visible strands of human hair stuck in the bloody trunk carpet. 40 hours after having seen Gina, Delana was certain Gina had been in that trunk, dead or unconscious, and later the lab report would confirm she had been. The same night, Gary Romano was also murdered near I-81, so this would make two murders in 24 hours of each other, which some people think are connected. The made-up story began. The statement given by Gina's murderer and his best friend became the facts of her last moments. After that day, the composed story and the sensationalized story carried forward for decades a story that Gina Hall went willingly with Steve Epperly, a story repeated over and over that Gina met a man at a nightclub, left to be with him in a secluded cabin on the lake. No, her sister says, Gina was abducted, and no body was found to speak her evidence or truth. So Gina had no voice in that one-sided killer composed story. So between July 2nd and 3rd, 1980, insurmountable evidence was found inside the lake house. Definitely painted a picture of Gina's fight in the inn. Gina's blood was there, her hair, a blue towel covered in matching carpet fibers cleaning up her blood. She was beaten fiercely in that lake house. July 3rd, 1980, within days of Gina's disappearance, Epperly, who had twice before been tried on rape charges, was a person of interest. Steve fails a polygraph. For 2 intensive months, the Hall family and many volunteers joined investigators in the search around the lake house, all through the woods and up and down the New River throughout the college town of Radford, Virginia, looking for Gina's body. July 12th, 1980, John Preston and his tracking German Shepherd, Harass, were brought to help search for Gina. Without any information, Harass was given a piece of Stephen Epperly's clothing and immediately located Epperly's car in the police parking lot and led police inside the building to the room where Epperly was sitting. Epperly's reaction was 3 repeats of, "That's a damn good dog." July 13th, 1980, Gina had been missing for 2 weeks. July to August 1980, the story continues to become sensationalized. This became the story all knew and believed. Gina's sister has a YouTube, if you guys want to check it out, called Gina Renee Hall, where she tells so much of this information. It's more than I could ever repeat and do a story on without it being hours of video. She thinks that Gina saw Epperly, that she was trying to get away. She saw Epperly coming up to her car, and when she noticed who it was, she pulled the inside of her door, which broke a piece of it. There's a door strap that is broken that wasn't broken before, which implies that Gina was trying to hold the door shut from the inside. Not that Gina got in a car willingly to go to the cabin to party. And Gina was not a partier, and she was not a one-night stand kind of girl. On August 8th, 1980, Epperly goes to Ohio. Within days, in the same area, Vicky Koch was reported missing August 10th, 1980. John Hall, Gina's dad, raised a reward from $10,000 to $12,000 in hope of Gina's body could be found and Epperly arrested. Koch's body was found in mid-September. She was no longer a missing person, but a murder case, and still a cold case today as well. Eventually the murder trial began, and the jury actually made a field trip to the Trestle and the lake house for the judge, jurors, attorneys, court officials, and Stephen Epperly, who's seen in this video on the right. Stephen Epperly was eventually convicted of the crime, which is great, but now decades later, Gina's sister's concerned about books and documentaries coming out that's retelling the same story that doesn't have Gina's truth or voice. Delana believes her sister just deserves better, regardless if Stephen is still in jail. But 40 years after the murder, Gina's sister, with help of a forensic anthropologist out of Tennessee, has found some new Gina's DNA in remains. In 2016, Delana said a farmer's grandson reported to the Radford Police Department that his family had held a secret since 1980. He said his grandfather witnessed what he believed to be 2 men dismembering a body at Meadow Creek, which is actually right beside the Trestle, because I was there. And they were driving a white van, and he believed the woman to be Gina Hall. That's what sparked Delana's journey for Gina's body. That's when the pieces of the puzzle started showing up and just started fitting together, is what her sister said. So Delana was introduced to Dr. Arpad, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Bass, a forensic anthropologist who had invented an instrument to detect DNA buried beneath the surface. Since then, Gina's remains have been discovered across 8 locations throughout New River Valley using that device. They found Gina's DNA on top of Paper Mountain at the lake house, also off of Hazel Hollow Road along Meadow Creek, which is near the Trestle. And they found one of her bones at Stephen Epperly's former hunting grounds. Not only did the instrument hit on Gina's DNA, but it also hit on another, Angela Radar. Radar went missing in Roanoke in 1977 before Gina's death, and back then they thought she was just a runaway teen, and that's where it stopped. But it's kind of looking like Stephen murdered her as well. So at the end of the day, Gina Renee Hall's body has not been found, but parts of her DNA have been found. Parts that are coming together to show the big picture of what really happened. Gina's family just wants closure and for her to have a voice, for the real Gina to be seen and not the one that her murderers painted a picture of. Gina was born to John and Elena Hall, and she grew up filled with love and joy, surrounded by her family. Just a normal little girl. She loved to dance, she loved to be around her friends, and she loved her family. And what happened to her, she didn't deserve. So if you're going to do something on Gina Renee Hall and you're going to tell her story, stop just copying and pasting the regurgitated story from her killer. And try to get some of who Gina Renee Hall actually is. So I guess if they found her car abandoned somewhere up here, it would have had to have been like...
Yeah, I mean, you could drive. I mean, obviously, they're driving back here. Oh, that is a pretty good car. Hold on. There's like paths and shit down there.
Yeah.
On the other side, you see it.
And this is the end of her story as far as her life goes. It looks like someone was buried back here recently.
Right behind her.
These are her parents, John and Joan. Looks like Joan maybe wasn't buried there, but John was. 1934, 2011. So we came all the way to Coburn, Virginia, just to bring you this story. We hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that it helps shed some new light on Gina Renee Hall and her death.
We just stopped here to check this one out on the way back to the car. But look at that. I'm gonna have to look into this. Odal Motors, Odal Hill, presumably the home. I don't want to walk on it or anything, but just show it to you. The house, garage, tow truck. Helen Odal, devoted wife and mother, 1923 to 2014. And Jake Odal Sr., Sergeant, U.S. Army, World War II, patriarch of the family, 1922 to 1912. Why do I have the feeling that this guy has a really interesting story?
Look at these ones.
Wow. That's really cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Has Virginia tags on it.
Look at this one. I'd love to have something like that like represented me, you know.
Well, let's not do it yet.
I didn't mean now. Look at this
Gloria Faye Holbrook, 1951 to 2019.
This one has the same last name as the first one, Odal.
Yeah. He's a Marine vet too, Vietnam. Ronald Lee Odal. Corporal, U.S. Marines, Vietnam.
And her death. Until next time.
Hillbilly's out.
Hillbilly Files out.